GameMarx.
Welcome to GameMarx, the podcast for Xbox Live indie games and development. GameMarx, where gamers control the means of production.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm here tonight, Mike. Dylan's here, Cicely's here.
Hola.
It's the normal crew. I should just come out and just confess that I put together the show last minute. I didn't have a whole lot of time this week. I went from getting back from Vegas, and then we had the show on Sunday, so I had to edit and upload the show Sunday,
Did you
Monday.
ever, get in touch with Chris?
I hate saying this in the show, but whatever, it's fact.
Oh, well,
He's posting on his Facebook and, his Twitter, but he's never responded back to me. And there's, no acknowledgement of, hey, what about all those emails I sent? Where are you? So I don't know. He's apparently
at least it's
fine.
not something, I was going to say.
He's fine. Well, I don't know what, so I don't care. I mean,
I shouldn't have asked.
It's not worth my effort to go into, hey, you're going to ever let me know that you weren't going to show? It's I already know you didn't show up, so.
It's over. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm not strung out about it. This week I finished up. I don't think I've talked about Tiny Bang.
I don't think so.
I don't understand.
I've been playing Tiny Bang on iOS. I don't know if you can get it for anything else. But I think it's a Flash game originally. It's a little find the item game, not really adventure game. I would say Machinarium. Machinarium had more of a plot and was more of an adventure game than even this. This is literally you have 2 or 3 screens on a level, and you'll have to find oh look, you gotta find 3 valves. Oh, I found the 3 valves, so now I can put them on this little pipe thing, and then you get a little mini game where you place the valves in the right order to get the water flowing that allows you to collect something else. And once you've done all the collecting and mini games in that world, then you get a couple puzzle pieces to put the world back together. So it starts off and you see a picture of the world, and this little comet comes and hits the world, and the world shatters into puzzle pieces. So you're running through all these levels, collecting all the puzzle pieces, putting it back together. I wrapped that up. It is a wonderful little game that I would highly recommend to everyone if they fucking made the controls work on iOS. This is why I think it was a Flash game, because this thing could only be played with a mouse. Just the amount of tapping. I see the piece right there.
And it's not the precision.
The precision required. And they have a pinch to zoom, but to move around the screen, you have to do the pinch to zoom move, but don't pull in or out. You just have to put 2 fingers on the screen and then start panning around. Whereas you might, in most things, just use 1 finger to pan around. So it doesn't allow you to use 1 finger to pan around. You have to put on 2, but you can't be moving them in and out because then it thinks you want to pinch to zoom. But it's real easy to start zooming when you into drag.
These, there would all be analogs to these with a mouse, mouse wheel, left click,
Exactly.
right click.
Mouse wheel, left click, right click. I don't even know if you need a right click. You probably just, does Flash even do right clicks? I don't think you can do right clicks.
I guess it does.
No, because then that just brings up the
Flash
About menu.
So, it's a great game, and maybe on an iPad, the bigger screen, it wouldn't be such a bad issue. But man, on my iPhone 4S, I had to go in there and just leave 2 stars. And I'm seemed like it'd be a really good game. But I could not recommend this to my mom, who would love this game. This game is made for someone like my mom. The puzzles are not overly complex. There's usually enough hints and things on there to figure out what is it that they want from you and what you have to do to get through that puzzle. And it's just kind of a nice, relaxing.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it. How much do they want for it on Android?
There's a free version, and then there's a $2.99 version.
Grab the free version, and just let me know if you also find the touch controls to be really, really overly precise. The iOS version is just filled with comments and ratings going like, this touch control is unbelievable. So I imagine in the free version they give you like a level to play or something. But I mean, it's really kind of nice. It's the kind of like, I got a few hymns to kill, let me pick out, find a few more items and collect. Oh, the other thing that really is annoying is you double tap to zoom in. But since the tapping to pick up an item is shit, like you see a puzzle piece, you want to pick that up, you're fucking tapping, I'm fucking tapping, then it starts zooming in and out because it thinks you're double tapping, so you like have to do like the slow tap to not trigger the double tap of the zoom, even though it's like, I can pinch to zoom if I wanted to pinch to zoom, you know? So their controls are shit. Other than that, I think it would be an awesome game. So I played that. I've been playing more of They Bleed Pixels, although I really think I'm done with this fucking game, because as I told last time, right? It's gotten to the point in the difficulty curve where even though they give you hearts and life, it doesn't matter.
They're
Every
one-hit
mistake is a one-hit kill,
like
or will just chain you to death. Doesn't matter anyway. And the checkpoint system isn't as fluid as it seems like it would be. And so you're still having to do these amazingly long runs and not screw up at all, because it's all one-hit kill and get through it. And it's at that point, and it's just like, fuck, do I really want to, like, commit to this game? But then I think I realized I might be on the last chapter.
So you might as well just keep...
Like, there's only 4 chapters and 3 stages per chapter, but, man, it took me... So the first time I played it, I did chapters 1 and 2, so 6 stages.
Right.
And got, like, in the second stage of 3. Then it took me a week, playing every couple nights and everything like that, to get through that stage. And then it took me, like, the beginning of this week, up till yesterday, to get through the next stage. So now we're down to, like, 1 stage per week. And these are just, like, little Super Meat Boy type short levels. They're not, like, fun at this point. It's like you're just playing the same jump over and over and over and over again. So,
Do you die as fast as in Meat Boy?
Yeah, it's a quick death. You're right back.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's kind of that's the way you should do these games, of like, you're right back in it, you know, there's not a whole lot to go through.
Yeah.
Like, even back to Xbox Live Indie games and Stayer games with This Is Hard. That was what I loved about it. It was like, the levels were really short, and as soon as you died, you were right back to try it again, so it wasn't a penalty for death. You just had to get a successful run, and then you've completed the level, and you could try it again and again. So, but the thing is with this, is it's not running through the whole level, you're just running through, like, checkpoint to checkpoint, so you're playing, like, the same 20 seconds of your life over and over again. I'm not enjoying it. I did install Sword and Sorcery. Have you played that?
Sword and Sorcery, no.
It's the one with the weird pixel art style.
No, I'm thinking...
Of the real elongated characters.
I think I have that, but I don't think I have the Android version from Humble Bundle. I may be wrong.
If you got a Humble Bundle Android version, there were, like, PC and Steam versions included in that. Because I bought one of the... I bought one of the Android ones because
I think I had the pack that only had... I don't know, I haven't played it. I was thinking of Swords and Soldiers for some reason. Because that's another Android game.
So I think that might be the next thing I move on to. I'm just kind of bouncing around smaller games at the moment. After Spec Ops and The Walking Dead, it's like, I'm not ready for commitment.
I don't know, I haven't really played much since Spec Ops. I mean, played, just some Left 4 Dead, But
you still haven't finished Spec Ops, right? We still can't, like, go into the ending of that.
I need to get back on that and finish that.
Because, there's going to be a bit about the cutscenes that I'm going to, like, reveal to you the way that they present that game. Because I don't even think extra credits spoils this. They might have, but I don't think they do.
Like a bit about all the cutscenes?
Yeah.
Like from the very beginning?
From the very beginning.
Hmm.
There'll be something of like, oh shit, that is clever. But yeah. Cicely, you been playing anything new or?
Not really. I've not even really played Don't Starve, and I keep looking at it on my Steam queue, and I accidentally started up FTL a little bit ago, but it was accident because you could actually just go from the little Steam dongle at the bottom right hand corner and say, I want to start up my RPG Maker, and FTL was the only thing I played most recent other than the RPG Maker, and so I accidentally started up like, no, I don't want to play a game right now. I want to write a game.
So, so checking where we are in the game. You made some comments. Are you near completing? Near completion?
No, I mix pronouns quite a bit accidentally, and the near completion is actually the garage and not.
Okay. Yeah, not mixing pronouns, like mixing subjects, like within the same tweet, you know, be like, oh, this and that, and then you're almost done.
Yeah, I got a Facebook comment from a friend from high school. It's like, really? I've always wanted to try an RPG Maker game. It's like, wait, no, not, no.
Didn't do it in 2 weeks.
I am not a genius.
Where are we at in the game?
We are in the middle of like 2 or 3 different quests. I'm trying to make quest markers, and then I've started 2 more maps. One of which is complete except for the actions on it, and I have to figure out why something's not being able to be walked over, but whatever. And I'm creating character faces so that I can have alternate faces when they pop up, and like, so this face does not just look happy all the time. It's like sometimes you need to look sad, sometimes you need to look surprised and whatnot.
Alright, do you think worth a video check-in at this point, or?
There's a lot more to show. There's at least twice as much to show that I was last time, but
yeah,
we could probably do one, yes.
Okay, so maybe Sunday or whatever, we'll do another video check-in on that, and then I still need to get the websites going again. I was making good progress on getting our sites done. And I don't have New Year's resolutions. I guess I have New Year's de-resolutions or something.
Didn't we do that last year? Things we would not do, and then
yeah. I mean, that's what I do. It's like not gonna fucking do this. This idea dead. This idea dead. The whole like GameMarx as the developer version of Xbox Indies, dead. Like, yeah. GameMarx is just going to be the GameMarx site, and it's going to feature our videos and our podcast mostly, and then room just so I could start. The way our site's structured now, I really don't want to start doing more lengthy article pieces. I hesitate to use the word journalism. Yeah. But in our industry, I could quite well call it game journalism if I wanted, but I'm gonna take a better term.
I'm an enthusiast press.
No, not enthusiast press though. Not like, hey, this game's coming out, I'm really excited by it. More deeper exploration topics, more, you know, more like the stuff that I've done with like the Kickstarter stuff of here's the numbers and all that. And I'm calling it not journalism because it's more researchy stuff that I kind of want to write out, more like composing thoughts and getting them out, and it's original work, whereas I think journalism is more of like, you know, reporting on something, but getting in and understanding it, and then talking to people involved, and then like presenting that in a way of like explaining the scenario, but also explaining with the problems existing in it. I have no problem with journalism that takes a side, by the way. I don't believe that journalism has to remain neutral. And in fact, I think good journalism does not remain neutral, but it presents its case well and backed up. And it's like, you know, and it's not something that you can do every week. It's like a good piece of journalism by a journalist will come out like every 3 to 4 months. That's the amount of time that goes behind that kind of like, hey, we're uncovering the hormones in the milk industry, you know, and they're bad. Well, it's like, all right, so you got to get in the uncover. How far is it spread? Who knows about it? When did they know about it? What's the effects? What have doctors said? You got to do all that research. And then, yeah, I think you need to take that and present that to me in a way that shows me all this data and all this is here so that I could disagree with you if I wanted. But you should also, like, say, like, hey, this is also bad because and this is going to cause this and all that. So I'm fine with that. But that's not what I'm looking at doing for the most part. Most of what I'm looking at doing is more like my what is fun, theory of fun talks and things like that.
That sounds kind of a little more speculative, I guess. Not something you could bring hard numbers to, but, you know.
Yeah, but some of it might be based in hard numbers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I might take some Kickstarter stuff and, like, go off on a lark and, like, let me grab some data on Kickstarter projects that were funded less than $500, but that was successful. Like, they asked for a low amount,
can you do with
and they
that
got a low
information?
amount. And it's like, yeah, well, what's the outcome?
What are the implications of that?
Right, you know. Basically, like, if you were to ask for the iOS version of Unity, right, like, I would like to get 3D Studio Max. I want to do rocks. That's just nibbling at the back of, like, that's what you want to fucking do. You know, let's do it. I still want to do the Space Invaders game, though, and I want to get back to it. But then I've kind of, like, said, no. 1 and 2 is get our sites in order. I've imported into Funkworks all of our disparate game sites that we had set up. I just need to go about finalizing the layout of it and getting bios up there and a few other About Us pages and things like that. And I want to get that up because I want Cicely's game to be on that page of, like, hey, we've launched our game. And I also want to have Funk Nation? What would you call our fan base? Like, if we start, like, a mailing list, the newsletter.
Funksters.
The Funksters. Like, we have to have, like, you know, something, you know, funk-related. But basically, that's the call to action, right? So I'm in company development mode, right? Of like, okay, I gotta get serious about company development. If we're gonna make this run as a game studio, I gotta start laying these hooks in and get serious about this marketing and not just talk about it on GameMarx. And it's like, okay, we do this free game. This free game equals free traffic and free publicity. What's the conversion? The conversion is there's a subscribe to our newsletter button right below the game. It's like, hey, if you want future updates from Funkworks. You know, Cicely does a series of these JRPGs online, whatever that evolves into. We port that to XNA. It doesn't matter. If somebody comes in and they have fun for 15 minutes playing that game, they'll probably go, yeah, I'll just take a, you know, it's like, hey, we may post one of these a quarter.
Yeah.
You know? But we gotta start building that mailing list that gives us that permission marketing so that we could say, hey, this is Funkworks, you know, you scribed up. There's something that you liked on Funkworks that you did. That we did, and you liked it, so you kind of dig us, and we've launched a Kickstarter, so we have that built-in 100 people who go give us $5 out of the gate, and now we have $500, and we're off the start line. You know, our Kickstarter is working, right?
Yeah, it's basically something that publicity outside the game development community or outside the XNA community,
right.
really.
You know, we have a small loyal following. We have a good number of people that follow us. And for the podcast, I enjoy that, and that's great. For GameMarx, I enjoy that. That's great. For Funkworks, it's not so great.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to hit a larger audience there. And that's also why we keep the two distinct. That is also why I've kept Funkworks and GameMarx, and like that content goes to Funkworks, not GameMarx. Like her behind the scenes on the games goes to the Funkworks YouTube account, not to GameMarx. I recently posted a playthrough of me and Unreal, and me and MechWarrior, the classic, to GameMarx. But since that's me kind of making commentary on the games from either just a nostalgic or just like what I liked about these games mechanically, execution-wise, that's GameMarx content, you know, and that goes under the GameMarx header. I also realized we can link outside of YouTube on our videos.
What do you mean?
Like, you know those little bubbles that pop up? Those are normally limited to only linking to other videos and things like that.
Really? I thought those were just
accounts,
naturally open.
Our account, no, you gotta get, like, approved and all that. But our accounts are so old, have enough views, and mostly are almost all original content constantly. Like, we produce our own shows and all that. That YouTube has unlocked everything that YouTube offers, 20 gig uploads, and So we can link to our associated websites. So like I had to prove I own GameMarx.com and Funkworks.com, and now I can have our videos linked to those sites.
Sweet.
I can also link to donation sites. So there, I'm working with Eric at the TechCo to get up a rally.org. Like you can link to Kickstarter, you can link to all these approved sites, but like change.org is not a good site for the TechCo, right? Because change.org is all about political action, motivation, things like that. Indiegogo is not a good link for the TechCo
because that requires a campaign,
and it's a campaign. But Rally allows you to have like an ever-present Rally page. So we'll get the TechCo set up to that, then I can like say, hey, if you feel the need to just thank us with your wallet, please donate in our name to Technology Cooperative. That's, on a large scale, I consider all that we do here a hobby, and I'm not going to ask someone to pay for my hobby.
Yeah.
I don't want you to kick in for podcasting equipment. I don't want you to kick in for hosting. I don't want you to kick in for any of these things.
Oh, we pretty much have like everything we need.
We don't need the money. It's not a case where like some people that are doing podcasts and all that, they need the money, kids in college getting started, getting going, and yes, $300 a year in hosting issues, that's a thing. It's not for us. I don't feel right asking for hey, cover hosting for xboxindies.com. It's like, no, I got that covered. We're fine on that. So I would rather you just donate to the Technology Cooperative. And this allows me to put on our videos everywhere, hey, donate to the Technology Cooperative, in our name if that's what you want to do. So I can link to that. I can also link to sites like Cafe Press and some other merch sites that do logoized merchandise. So we may do some of that. We may come up with some ideas with that, or just, I'm not willing to go deep down that rabbit hole unless people start buying, like I know
odds are like your property has to become well known before people will start buying logo shirts, or something.
Yeah, so we tried that once. So
the market is kind of flooded for that on the internet.
It is.
Like nobody's business.
Funkworks, you may not realize it. So GameMarx has about 100 subscribers, and let's say 100,000 video views. Funkworks has 560 subscribers and like 600,000 video views.
What did we have on there that would generate that?
Because that was before Dubstep Diaries.
Okay. Yeah.
My Visit to the Hive 13, Nox and A video. Okay. I've got some older code stock stuff that we're hosting on our account. But it does a fair amount of traffic. Like that account does do a fair amount of traffic, and I'm not really working with it in any way. I am not interested in turning on ads because I don't think we have enough traffic that would be worth pissing the people off and piss off. So I'm not going to enable ads on it. But again, so this is just like get our, ducks in a row here so that we're, from our videos, directing people from the site. On the site, we're directing them to, like, GameMarx. I want you to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the RSS feed, subscribe to YouTube. That's really all I'm asking out of GameMarx. Funkworks, I would love to get your email address so that I can send out a quarterly, a game update, or maybe a Kickstarter project, or a new game release, is coming out, and maybe we can generate some fan buzz, with that. So, that's kind of the thought at the moment. So I gotta get that back, get back on the thing that, where I got derailed on that was fucking Blueberry. It's BLUBRRY.
Oh yeah, the
PodPress plugin.
Yeah.
I'm using them to like do the WordPress podcast features to plug in.
I remember you mentioning this. If this is the same problem,
well,
where you're getting errors.
Yeah, so they're fine if I manually add each podcast by hand, but if I try the batch import, it throws an error. And the problem is not that there's an error, there's an issue on the batch import, is that I posted all these details to the forum, reproduce it, here's the links, and I basically got told Azure wasn't HTTP compliant, and, it wasn't a CDN, at which point I said, okay, first of all, it works on one of your forums and not the other.
Yeah.
With the same link in both in Azure. Second, Azure is HTTP compliant. Third, not only is it a fucking content delivery network, I could cache our podcast worldwide if I wanted with the flip of a switch. So it's a remote caching content delivery network. Please look into the issue. And they gave me another post. They didn't. And I think by the third one is when I went to Twitter. And then the guy who was posting in the forums from Twitter also saw that. And, he's like, oh, I saw your thing on Twitter. And that's why I was like, hey, I'm posting this from the plane going to CES. And look, if you want to look into the issue or not, fine. But, you can try the same file. I've given you all the links. You've not investigated it. It works from your plugin in one screen and not in the other.
If you're just trying to pull data out of one database and stick it in another, and I'm assuming, does it store the actual contents of the file in the database, or does it stick them somewhere else?
Well, all these plugins sort of hang on to WordPress's database, and they kind of have their own little and all that. And it was just like, well, you've got an import feature. And so I was trying to use it so it would set up all the posts correctly.
I was going to say, at some point, if they're going to be a problem, it's almost easier to just go, here's a script, it'll,
Yeah,
dump
so
everything to
that's
some
I
common
can start
format.
and I'm going to have to do that for some of our content.
Yeah.
Anyway, do some database integration to get our reviews migrated over to GameMarx. The theme I have set up allows for all of our custom rating fields and things like that, and genre and game type. That will be imported into our WordPress database as well. So we'll still have on all of our archive reviews a little about the game box. That was in the design template that I bought.
Yeah.
He had that feature. So that'll be cool. That'll stay there. I'll keep that in the archives. And for that, I am just going to have to do a database import. At that point, I might do it, although I do kind of have an idea of what might be wrong in the Blueberry plugin. So when I'm going to sit down, it was one of those moments like when I was at CES, just walking the hall, all of a sudden, like you're not thinking about the problem.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden,
then suddenly,
wait a minute, I know what might be wrong. I think I know what they might be doing wrong here. There's a spot where you can enter the podcast prefix URL. So like for us, it's like all of our Azure content is static.gamemarx.com/asset/podcast. And I put that in as a prefix. So all we have to type in on the WordPress form is just the MP3 name.
Right.
You don't have to have the full URL. And I'm betting that when they do the import, the RSS feed has the full URLs and the code is still prepending that. And Lord help me in the forums if I go in, take that out, run it, and it works, and I go, here's your fucking bug. All right? You didn't want to test this. You didn't want to believe it. I've solved your problem. Fix it if you want. But you know what I've learned? I will never pay for your support. I will never go to your paid tier of product because this is the level of support behavior you had. I don't know. I have a very short temper for the typical developer response in forums of well, you need to go solve your problem. And it's very clearly, to me, looking at my posts, this is not an average WordPress user. This is not, I tried to import and it's not working, it's giving me this error. Just a detailed event log of what's going on, and here are links, and here's how you repro, and things like that. So
here's the URL of the feed that you can point this to and see this happening.
I didn't give him the feed.
Oh, okay.
I gave him the URL of the podcast that it was saying HTTP headers incompliant.
Okay.
Or no, the HTTP protocol error violation, and they were telling me, Azure doesn't implement. It's a cloud service and doesn't implement it. And it's and they also said something about Amazon, and it's dude, do you know how many people store their fucking content in Azure and in Amazon S3? Tons. It's HTTP compliant. Trust me. You don't understand how the cloud works, okay?
You think the cloud is something fundamentally different than...
Speaking of the cloud, I got a major bug that I need to fix in our Azure. Not really a bug, but since it's not a true web server,
Right.
it doesn't do things automatically that a web server would do. and it doesn't send the cache headers. The if modified since header.
Really?
That's why we have so much fucking bandwidth. Because the browser never gets the if modified since header and always assumes everything is invalidated cache and re-downloads everything. Because even though I'm pushing like 40, 50 gigs a month on Azure, but it's only costing us 15 cents a month, I've not bothered to fix it. But I need to fix that if we drop off the free tier.
Yeah. It seems funny that, because that's an option you can set in IIS, isn't it?
I think so. I think, yeah. That's
it's like not anything we would have to modify on the code side.
Well, no, we have to modify on the code side because it's not being served by IIS. It's being served by... I'm talking about the static content. Box art, podcast, all this stuff is getting downloaded every time. Blob storage, essentially.
Okay.
What you have to do is you have to tell it the headers to return in response to different requests.
I guess if it's blob storage, it's not like
blob
IIS.
Storage is designed REST. So if a browser sends a head request, it's designed REST, and it will only return the headers. So there will be some Azure headers, custom, but there will also return any headers you set. So like one header I had to set was a MIME type, because Azure doesn't give a fuck about MIME types, right? So I have to set the MIME type explicitly on all items I store in the cloud. I also need to be setting the if modified since header to the last time I changed the file myself. Then when you do a head request, it'll return that. So I mean, Azure is designed to dual purpose. It's a URL. You can download it at this URL. It behaves exactly like a URL.
Okay.
Except there's not really directories. Like the name of the file isn't GameMarx episode 153.mp3. The name of the file is /assets/podcast/ GameMarx episode 153. Right? Slashes are in the file name. Because it's really the key, not a file name, right?
Right.
But it's designed to be transparent because it is a content delivery network. You can flip a switch, when you do the content delivery network that does edge caching, you start by saying, what blob storage container am I remotely caching? And that's where you pointed at.
Basically like S3 for
Yeah, it is
Amazon
exactly
does.
like S3.
But I thought you meant it was the website, and I figured that was something like, surely Azure websites give you the equivalent of that IIS. I didn't know blob storage, which is something completely different.
All right. I think that around anything else we want to hit or cover.
Nothing I can think of.
Crap. Let me bring it up right now because I think I forgot to mention this last week too. Let me bring it up right now and just mention it right now. I wanted to give a shout out to a Kickstarter. Yeah, I only got fucking 10 days to go. Better do it now. Ledo and Ix. I've talked about this series in the past. I'm going to play the video here and mute the speakers. It is this really kind of cool... It's on Penny Arcade TV. And it's this really kind of 8-bit, 16-bit era animation. So it's not a game. It's an animation played off of that graphical stuff. And kind of commentary, subtle commentary about those games is worked in as well. But it's amazing writing. I think it is amazing writing for the very little bit of writing that is done in the game and how much it conveys. You know, I mean, it's really good, like, video game writing because it's like, no, there's not a lot of text here and there's a huge amount of story arc that is conveyed in that first season. Emily Carmichael, the woman who created the series and everything, she did the first season. She's got a lot of contract work, but not enough work that she can just, like, take a month off for something that's not going to pay anything and do that. So she's like, hey, if I can get $8,000, I've already written the stories and everything. So, I just want to go ahead and, do the second season. I just need to animate it and bring in some animators and things like that. So she did the Kickstarter goal. I kind of hate that, oh, that's a hilarious scene they're showing where they're in the town and the town crier, and you know, like the RPG, it's like, hey, get the news, everybody read the news. You can't talk to the town crier, so Ix is up at the town crier. He's like, yes, I would like a copy. Hey, get the news. You can read the news. Yes, I would like to buy one. How much is it? Hey, get the news. No, I would like to buy a copy. You know, and there's this whole argument that he has, like, you just give me the fucking, you know.
Get the news.
Oh, and then there's like where he tries to take a chicken out of the town too, and you can't like carry the chicken off screen. You can pick up the chickens and you can throw the chickens, but like the chickens can't go off screen.
Right.
And he like refuses to accept that. So and then there's parts where there's like weird game bugs and things like that. The personalities are great. I will confess, full disclosure, I backed her at like $100. I want 2 giant Ledo and Ix posters. I need to hang the posters in my office. I need to get those hung up, the ones that I've bought, and decorate my office. I need to get that done. But yeah, on the wall behind me here will be Ledo and Ix. And there's 2 of the quotes on there. One of Ix going, he's kind of the child, and Ledo, she's kind of like the adventurer, and he's almost like a tag-along. I forget what the posters say. I know his says, like, I hope we have a lot of points. Yeah. She's got, I expect very big monsters, and he's like, I hope we have a lot of points. You know, she's very clearly got a drinking problem, and just, like, charges into battle, for the thrill of the fight. Right. And then, there's a thing where he's walking behind her, and he's like, hey, how many points do we have? Like, I don't know. It's like, well, I don't know. Is that important? We should know how many points we have. And she's like, I don't know. We got a lot of points. Do we have a lot of points? Yeah, a lot of points. I hope we have a lot of points. You know, and it's just, that's the whole dialogue, but it's like this commentary of like, points don't mean a fucking thing. Why are there points in RPGs? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. Here's the posters. So yeah, I wanted to give a shout out. You got about 10 more days to back this. I guess you're really backing it if you almost want to kind of a memento, like the low tiers, and postcards and things like that. I don't know. It's going to be a web series and it's going to be freely available. My only real complaint is that they're on Penny Arcade TV, and after Penny Arcade did this whole fucking abuse of Kickstarter of like, hey, we don't want to have ads, so just give us money so we don't have to have ads. We're not starting anything. We could take the money from advertisers. And apparently, like, Peter Mullen was evil for doing that. Like, oh, he could get the money on his own and he could do that. But nobody, like, vilified Penny Arcade for doing the same.
A couple of people did.
A couple did.
Yes, some people.
But not to the extent. Like, no other media site, you know, there was comments on podcasts, but that's the extent of it, you know?
Yeah, nothing written down, nothing that could be tied firmly.
Right.
As I said, I've said before, with like Apple got us to accept that we don't own the hardware. Steam got us to accept DLC, like or DRM. If you give someone something shiny enough, they will stop caring.
They will. And but I am kind of pissed off that they would use it but then not give a shout out to a show that's on Penny Arcade TV.
In theory, bringing people to the
and you know, hopefully would be there again, and you know, it's a great show, unless it's, you know, it's not going to wind up there. I don't know. But yeah, I watched this show years ago. I watched all the episodes, and then signed up for her mailing list. She had like a mailing list to like gauge interest, and then like the kicker on the mailing list was like you would get the premiere, the sneak peek of season 2. Wait,
this was years ago?
Years ago. Really? Yeah, this has been sitting on for a while, and apparently it's been written for a while, just not had the time and the money to be able to go and finish it, and so it will be finished now. It will be successful. Hey, the next games are getting announced on Greenlight, and maybe my desktop presenter will unfreeze. Maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll go back and try again. And maybe it will, and maybe it won't, and
maybe.
There we go. the next games are being greenlit. Included in the list is DLC Quest.
Ooh.
So DLC Quest will be available on Steam. I expect to see it in the Humble Bundle soon after. I wouldn't be surprised that it doesn't appear. And I think DLC Quest has promised DLC. Like they're gonna add things and all that, because the original game was pretty short. Like it had its joke, it did its joke. Also, I didn't get a news story up on this, but Giant Bomb. Let me just open that right now so I don't forget to make a show note to it. Giant Bomb did a quick look on. It was right on the homepage. I don't know why I clicked through on Super Amazing Wagon Adventure, which that was a Uprising game, wasn't it? That was in the Uprising. It was one of the better ones.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It is
I
a
don't
good
remember
game,
the name. The name doesn't ring a bell.
I mean, they play it because they enjoy it, and they got it on there. So good to see some coverage of Xbox Live Indies. I mean, they cover it all on Xbox Live Indies, and it's interesting because Patrick starts off the show
With
of like
Microsoft tried to kill it.
The service
so
that
many
Microsoft has tried to kill and wish you'd forget about, and has tried to snuff out several times. Like he doesn't say like the crappy service of awful games has an amazing game. Like he actually like lays blame at the feet of Microsoft for their attempts to destroy the service, and like good games are still finding a way to get to that service, even though Microsoft is. And I thought that is kind of cool.
Surprising because
that's not the mainstream press's take on Xbox Live Indie games.
You definitely hear that if you're if you have a stake in it, if you're in the XNA community.
I know we want to talk for Steam a little bit because on Steam is the can I get from Steam to a web page so I remember to make a link? That'd be awesome.
It is just a web browser.
It is just a web browser. Copy page URL. I can do that. I'll get this link up here in a second.
Aha. There you go.
And that's the game I want to make a link to. So we were talking earlier about some of the software available on Steam, and Steam needs to control this a little better, I think. The one on here that I want to talk about specifically is Silo, and because Blender is, you could cut yourself on the interface, you know.
Right.
You could chop the top of your finger off if you were not careful. You have to use the handguard with Blender. Stick around for outtakes. That makes sense. And
well, you're supposed to put the lid on the blender before you use it.
There you go. Yeah. No balls. Push the. Yeah. So by the way, Alton Brown made a frog in the blender joke. Like one of his Post-it notes. Who did he stick in the blender? I don't remember.
One of the Twitter toads. One of the ones that say, "I am going to unfollow you."
Yeah. Anybody who says,
"I am about to unfollow."
I have unfollowed so and so for their abusive tweets or something, or they just posted garbage and I've unfollowed you. Alton Brown is pushing hashtag Twitter toad. That you were just a Twitter toad, and yeah, he put the dude in the frog in the blender drawing.
Yeah,
he put the dude in there. I'm like, this is that dude, and he had like 3 tweets on the guy like that. You know, Alton Brown is a sarcastic asshole.
Yes, I've noticed that.
And I love his style for it. Anyway, Silo. So since I want 3D software, I want to make rocks. I'm constantly like going like, all right, I need to fucking learn Blender, and that way, you know, we can start to add that to our tool chain. Because 3D Studio Max, I just don't see happening. Don't see that.
We would basically have to make a super successful game for that to be affordable.
Yeah, I mean, at the minimum, we need 2 copies.
Yeah.
We need an artist copy for Sicily, and we need a copy for me to figure out how in the hell...
That looks like disdain, right?
Sadness?
Yeah. Thanks for derailing. So I looked at Silo, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, there's this 3D Studio project that's, $60 on Steam. And I basically was interested, like, can it do animations? I'm not too concerned about wild effects. All I want to do is be able to model an object on the screen and rig it up to a skeleton and do animations. I feel like that's all we need. That's the basics that we need. It's not a whole lot. And looking at Silo 2, I dug into it and found out like this software has been abandoned for like 3 years by the company that makes it. And their forums are full of posts of like, hey, there's all these baking bugs. It crashes if you have the wrong version, or if you have like newer versions of DirectX installed. It's just like, it doesn't work in many instances. Several of the tools, like one guy's like, if you go to grab the cut tool, half the time it'll crash on me, half the time it works. Just never know. But Steam is selling it, and the thing is that they're selling this 3-year-old version. They're not selling like a new, like, hey, they're updating it, and now they're behind it again. It's just like they somehow slip below the radar on this, and they do that. And that's not the only one I've found like that where people are talking in the comments of like, this is a horrible version for them to be selling, you know?
When you say a horrible version, you mean like an older version?
Like an old version, like an unsupported version anymore of like, hey, this software is several years old. It's kind of bad to be on Steam representing itself as like, hey, this is new, you know, and all that on there. So, I just wanted to kind of point that out in buyer beware on that. And then also, no, it doesn't look like it does skeleton. Just the modeling bits. I couldn't find where it was doing skeletal animation. So useless for our purposes. Let's see here. Develop has a good article where they interviewed and sat down and talked with PlayJam, makers of the Game Stick. Now, you may recall the Game Stick as a Kickstarter. I was highly skeptical of what the hell's going on. Well, since, you know, they're going to put effort into it, and me not just, you know, I'm going to read the Kickstarter and go, things don't add up. Be careful on this one. Apparently, the company has raised $5 million in a seed funding, round A, and then also has raised an undisclosed amount of funding in March.
So this basically is pre-sale.
They're saying it's not. They're saying, well, we're also developing smart TVs. So all that money is for the smart TV project, and this is a side project that is completely funded by this $100,000, which sounds like bullshit.
Well, in theory, you could have smart TVs running the same software, but this isn't about the software, it's about the hardware.
But if you have the smart TVs running kind of the same software, in both cases they were Android-based, they use the same UI, they use the same
You're not waiting for people to buy the TVs, you're getting your platform out there.
Well, you can't say that $5 million isn't going to the development of the Game Stick, and that this isn't publisher-funded, and that you're not using this for pre-sales. It's funny the wording that he used. The wording directly to that question was asked later whether the Kickstarter was part of a marketing ploy to gain interest. Johnson replied, absolutely not. I don't think we would have gotten away with it if we would have done it like that. I don't think we would have gotten away with it. So we have gotten away with it. What have we gotten away with? It's just a interesting choice of words there.
That does seem interesting, especially like when you put it like that. It's almost like they were trying to piggyback off the Ouya.
Yeah, it does look like
hey, we can
have
do that
$5
too,
million in
and
funding.
we actually have a platform.
We're working on this. We already have the platform. You know, like they weren't working on a game controller. They weren't working on what the Game Stick was.
Yeah.
But they saw the Ouya and they went, well, we fucking have this done.
Yeah.
Like, we could just put games on here. It's Android-based.
But it makes sense with all these smart TVs coming out that, you know, if you can kind of set yourself up as one of the standard platforms, and if you can put out a, essentially like a console that...
From what I saw at CES, nobody is doing a standard platform. Everybody's creating their own.
That's what I mean. Like,
Sony
you can
is
set
not
your...
interested. Samsung is not interested in Play Jam's Smart TV OS.
Well, yeah, but what I mean is, if you can set yourself up as one of the leading people in the market, then as things shape up, I mean, basically, you're looking at an HD DVD versus Blu-ray situation. Some of those are not going to survive, and some of those are going to...
Except you have, like, 8 standards out there. And, you know, they've already failed on the smart TV aspect, because all these smart TVs that have been shipping for the last 3 years, they're not getting updated. No. Nobody's putting new apps on an old Panasonic from 3 years ago.
Well, you're far more likely to, if you've got a separate box for that, like a Boxee or a Roku, than if you have... Even then, if you have a DVD or Blu-ray player that has it built in, so yeah. But if that's going to be the new big thing, that's a good way to advertise.
What I saw at CES when I thought was interesting was that Roku was in a lot of booths. They didn't have their own, but Roku's got this HDMI stick. Have you seen this?
No.
It just looks like a thumbstick, except instead of being USB, it's HDMI. And if you have an HDMI spec 1.4 or something, if you have a new HDMI spec, it won't work on some of the older ones. Then it just plugs into that HDMI port and then integrates itself with your TV. And so it works with your remote, it powers itself off the HDMI port, you're done. You have a Roku-enabled TV now. It runs the Roku OS. It does not do the game playing that like the new Roku boxes do, but everything else as far as like run Roku apps and download all that. And I thought it was telling that they weren't running their own booth. They were positioned in all these other TV vendors' booths showing like, hey, this has a new HDMI spec and you just plug the stick in and now it's a Roku. And it's like, okay, that seems to have more traction, potential.
Yeah.
Than like, you know, Samsung. Like, what you're banking on is that everybody owns a Samsung TV, and that's not realistic. Sony's banking on everybody owns a Sony TV. Not realistic.
And this sounds like these guys are trying to be Roku.
Samsung has an AirPlay competitive technology that not only works with Samsung mobile devices, only works with the Nexus that's out now, and like some tablet coming out.
Wait, you mean the Galaxy?
Yeah, like the Galaxy and the Nexus tablet that's coming out.
Wait, the Nexus is not Samsung. Nexus is Google.
No, Samsung has a Nexus too, don't they?
I
thought you said like a Nexus and a Galaxy and I think it was Galaxy Nexus or something. But one of these was to be released. One of them was not out, and the other was like out now. So it wasn't like all Samsung devices. It was like 2 explicit Samsung devices. I'm like, this is a feature no one's going to fucking use. Like, the combination of events that have to happen for that to be useful, and then the person has to know that it's there and be tech-savvy enough to hook that all up and get that all going.
Well, it's kind of like...
It's not going to happen.
That doesn't surprise me, given that Samsung is advertising its phones by, you can touch 2 of them together. Yeah, if they're the same type.
You can bro bump. Yes. That's... We had that. Zune had that, and we called it squirting. And it wasn't popular then.
No.
If it didn't save Zune, it's not saving
Doing weirdly proprietary stuff in your mobile devices only works if you're Apple.
I don't know if you followed the THQ mess.
I have been.
The Humble Bundle mess, or just...
No,
or
so they had their Humble Bundle.
Yeah.
Then they filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah, now I heard about those.
And when they filed for bankruptcy, they went into the court. They said, "Hey, we got this company. They're gonna buy up our assets,
like 600 and something.
And so we submit this plan to file bankruptcy. Go there, and then the shareholders and the creditors went, "The hell you're not." Like they told the court, "You're trying to fuck over all the investors and all that, and also THQ's deal misrepresents the company's financial state." And undervalues the company. And so the judge went through the list of complaints, and in every case, ruled against THQ. THQ has enough money to operate for the next couple of months, the judge said. THQ has undervalued its assets. THQ did not allow enough time for the company to be evaluated by potential investors and buyers in the buyout. And where it ended up, THQ is now going to auction. Now, somebody will probably buy, like, Saints Row the Third. That's going to go to a major studio and all that. You know, somebody will buy the Warhammer license.
Buy the properties, basically.
The big properties, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, Checkpoint was talking about like Versus. The, what they call it? They call it the Street Fighter knockoff that would have been highly controversial because it had a pimp character in it, but it wasn't controversial because nobody fucking gave a shit about the game, right? It's like, you know, so I think on Checkpoint they were like, we will give you $200 and a plate of fresh baked cookies, you know, for the license now. Double Fine.
Awesome.
So apparently THQ published, Stacking and Costume Quest.
Yes.
And Double Fine is basically registering as an interested party to buy back their IP. So they would either get a new publisher or they would self-publish. The interesting thing in their position is not that they're after Stacking 2 or Costume Quest 3 or whatever, like there's a sequel. It's that, like, if THQ goes under and it just winds up at a creditor, like owns the IP, which has happened to many, many games, that creditor could not give a fuck. It's just like stuff that the creditor holds on to of like, yeah, we just kind of own this shit, we don't give a fuck. And then it gets pulled from Xbox Live. And then those royalty payments stop for Double Fine. Like, Stacking
it's in their
and Costume
interest.
Quest, which are not that old of games, right? Even potentially affecting Steam. So THQ published them on consoles and had the publishing rights to consoles. or Double Fine, from what I understand, retain the option to self-publish on PC if THQ declined, which they did. So THQ said, yes, we're not going to publish your PC version. We're not going to box it up and retail ship it. So then Valve could step in and say, all right, we're going to publish it through Steam. But from what I understand, there's a good chance that Double Fine is still paying THQ a cut of Steam sales because technically
THQ owns the rights.
Owns the IP, right? It's all kind of convoluted, but it creates a system where now Double Fine is going to try to bid on their own properties. Hopefully nobody comes in and tries to, like, you know, grab that.
Although
but
those
it's
are
not
kind
really
of
valuable to anyone other than Double Fine.
Yeah, I don't see those. I've never played.
I mean,
either
they're
of
not
those games,
franchise
but-
properties. You know,
Yeah.
maybe Costume Quest might be something you can spin into it, but Stacking is kind of a one and done. Like, it's a neat mechanic puzzle game. You really can't stretch that into, at least I don't see stretch that into a sequel. So it's really about just being able to keep those up on the console sales and being able to keep the revenue coming in from those games. So, but yeah, I mean, hey guys, if you wanted to go look through the back catalog of Toy Headquarters, you could, you know, like, I'm sure there's some real rotten gems on there. I told somebody at
Wait,
work.
technically they own all the way back to, like, some Nintendo games, didn't they publish some Nintendo games?
Oh, they published shitty Nintendo games, like Home Alone.
Oh.
Which would have a problem because whoever owns that, like, Viacom, I don't know who owns Home Alone, the movie rights. You couldn't make a new Home Alone game.
Right. But
without permission. Like, they did a SpongeBob game. The South Park game that THQ was going to publish, because that was funded by Viacom, not only is it not up for auction, Viacom is paying the development studio directly, so they just find a new publisher. Just somebody else will publish the game, and it can't even be auctioned, the rights that THQ had on that, the way that contract was written, because THQ was not funding any bit of that development. They were just going to be the service that got it on discs and in stores.
okay.
So yeah, so some properties like that you couldn't build on. But I mean, THQ made shitty NES games and Super Nintendo games. They didn't make great goods. They weren't new properties. They were knockoffs and shit. It really isn't until recent years, right?
That it's kind of developed its
Saints Row the
own-
Third is a GTA knockoff. The first two games are nothing but GTA ripoffs. The third all of a sudden became kind of its own thing, which we talked about this in our clone episode, right? I think of just like
I think so. I've
how
never
a clone,
played any of those.
like the Gina sisters or whatever, like how a clone evolves into its own thing. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to start off with a clone, but then you grow it into your own thing. Saints Row the Third being a great example of that. But yeah, I mean, we could snap up. Maybe I was telling somebody, like, I'm gonna buy the license to Homefront and make Homefront 2 an Asteroids clone.
I don't even remember Homefront.
It was a bad first-person shooter. It was like hey, we're going to be Call of Duty, but we're not Call of Duty, so... And we're not Spec Ops The Line. Like, we don't have a weird angle claim to fame on it. So, yeah. You want to go bid on some THQ stuff?
I was going to say, I bet there's already tons of people who have the same idea. Like,
well, from what I understand in the process, and I don't know if it's going to be an open auction or if it's going to be like a sealed bid, or how it's going to play out. But from what I understand, like if you want to bid, you have to register your interest and then submit like a statement of financial viability or something. Basically, it says like if you bid, you can pay what you're bidding for. Because the creditors are not going to fuck around with you defaulting. Like basically, you have to be able to say like, no, I have a bank lined up, cash is in hand, you know, I'm pre-approved
for $200 in a plate
to drive this car off the lot. You know, I can take this limit and all and drive it off the lot. But yeah, this is also unfortunately like how game licenses die. You know, of like, who owns the rights to that? I don't fucking know. It's on abandonware.com. It's on Abandononia now because some creditor got it and they don't give a fuck, and
we never ever get a sequel.
Rights will never get a sequel to it. Nobody will ever like put it on a disc hit collection. It just dies. Digitally dies. Because it gets lost in this quagmire. And, you know, because of the way our copyright laws are, I don't even think any software, I think no software is old enough to be public domain expiration yet. Like, Disney has so fucked that system over.
Yeah, it's like
the couple
over 50
of
years.
podcasts.
Oh, no, it's beyond 70 now. I think we're pushing for 120, right?
It's like 50 years after the lifetime of the original creator.
No, I think it's at least 70 after the life of the creator now. Potentially 120 on a sale of that. Like, no, Disney has pushed this
So the creator
hard.
doesn't own it, but he's still alive, so it's still not quite there yet.
Like when they redid that patent reform or something, I think part of that was stretching that out even further. I think it's a lot further we do that.
It's insane.
God, you know what? I'm just gonna cut this. I don't really feel like...
Don't feel like talking about that, or that, or that.
So, talking about studios going under. Apparently 38 studios in, like, Kurt Schilling gotta pay back as much debt, been ordered to, like, he's personally on the hook for a lot of things, or, like, telling him he has to pay a certain amount of things, or come up with funds, or I don't understand. He's having to auction off some of his sports memorabilia.
Is he auctioning off the bloody sock?
He's auctioning off the bloody sock.
Damn it!
So apparently, somebody... Here's the life lesson. Somebody funded an MMO and wound up owning a bloody sock.
Wow.
Don't fund an MMO.
I wish I could just bleed on stuff and have people pay for it.
The bloody sock was associated with a World Series, and so that's why it was famous. But that was independent of him owning an MMO.
Yeah, this is still Kurt Schilling, the pitcher.
I understand that.
Apparently, he broke his ankle in a World Series.
And still played
and they
on
put
it.
a splint on it, and then he played on it, and then it's like the blood oozed, apparently into multiple socks? But he saved one and threw away the others?
He saved the outer one. That's the one that counts.
Like, I don't understand why he just didn't do a,
Can't touch this, dude.
No, who's the, Coca-Cola, hey kid, football player?
Because that would be gross.
What's that?
Like Bo?
No, not Bo. Way before Bo.
I know what you're talking about, though.
The running back. The best running back, the one that Emmitt Smith was breaking his records.
Namath?
A Coke and a Smile, dude. He gives him his jersey. That's the whole commercial.
Oh,
Fuck, why can't I remember his name? Pittsburgh Steeler.
Mean Joe Green.
Mean Joe Green.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, you know, like he's in the hall, and the kid comes up, he's like, great job, Mean Joe, you know, whatever, and like, here, have a Coke, and he gives him his jersey, and you know, and there's like that Saturday Night Live parody or wherever, where like he gives him his sock and his jock strap and all that. I'm wondering if there's like one of the bloody socks where like some kid came down and like, hey Kurt Schilling, here's a Coca-Cola, here's a bloody sock, kid. Hold on to that because that's gonna be worth a shit ton one day.
No, because
after I fucking run a company into the ground,
because one of the socks was like what his lucky sock that was bare threads, and then mostly it was wrappings, and then it was the.
There's nothing
socks.
Lucky about a sock that is covered in blood. Okay?
That is pretty much
that is an unlucky sock.
You have had your worst.
Whatever
day.
was lucky ran out and did not work because now there's blood all over the sock.
He won.
The lucky sock would have prevented the blood and the pus and the ooze.
need for a bloody sock.
Everything comes at a price.
Just the fact that there's like a judge that's going down a list and like the bloody sock will be auctioned. Gavel. Bang. That was a courtroom discussion.
Why not?
And now, like, there's a part of me that's like, I would love to fucking bed and have the bloody sock. But what the fuck's in the bloody sock? I'm like, oh, you're not gonna believe the story.
It's not. You're not gonna.
Like, I'm gonna tell you the story of the bloody sock, and I'm gonna tell you how I got the bloody sock.
Everyone knows
the story of the bloody sock.
Yes. But you're not saying you would frame it. You would just like drape it over a chair arm. Like it was,
Oh, like
I like your idea.
You just leave your dirty laundry all over. No, man.
That's the bloody sock.
The bloody. And when I read this too, like I'm not the GameMarx Funkworks resident.
I know. I've heard the story
expert.
before, but I wouldn't connect it to Kurt Schilling.
So when I saw bloody sock, you know what I thought? The bloody glove. Like, holy shit! There's an O.J. Simpson style bloody glove in the 38 Studios. Like Kurt Schilling tried on the sock and it's like the sock doesn't fit. See, I couldn't have run the company into the ground because the sock doesn't fit. Like what in the hell has happened, people? We've left. Sanity has left the station.
Hey, I mean, if people are willing to pay money for it,
the state of Illinois, I hope the
asset.
entertainment is worth your tax dollars.
Massachusetts.
Was it Massachusetts? Yeah, it was in Boston. Yeah, it was Massachusetts. I hope you guys feel like you got your money's worth.
It was your governor's fault.
Because I think you're going to be paying on that
for years.
For years to come still. And then when it's done paid off, the government's not going to give you that tax break. They're going to fucking keep it. Hey, fanboys. It's time to fucking get ready, man. So, rumors are already out that GDC, not E3, is going to be announcements of consoles.
Okay.
That the one-upmanship of the consoles, basically everybody's saying, and I believe, I don't think there's any doubt at this point, that both Microsoft and Sony are launching new consoles this holiday season.
And they're going straight up against each other.
Like the last one.
Yeah.
So there's whose specs, what features, what price point, and it's this game of chicken. I think Giant Bomb talked about it the best, of like the price game of chicken might also just be not like we gotta go lower than the other guy, but like maybe they'll announce at like $500 and we can go, oh fucking thank God we're also $500 because we can't afford to go less than. But if they announce at $400, fuck it, we have to go like, $400 or lower. We can't go higher, But, you don't want to be the first one out the gate with your price because that still leaves you time to change. You don't want to be the first one that announces all specs because, like, the Sony 6-axis controller, like, that came out after the Wii, announcement stuff of like, no, we got motion controls too, look at this, right?
They're just not as...
No, it wasn't good, but just because they announced spec doesn't mean they can't change it, right? These aren't locked in. So the articles have already started circulating of comparing the next-gen consoles. Fanboys, you have your ammunition. PS4, 50% more powerful than the next Xbox.
We turned it up to 11.
The PS4 can run 1.84 teraflops compared to the Xbox's 1.23 teraflops.
You're speaking
meaningless numbers.
Yeah.
Check.
Not even Latin.
And I just thought, like, the fact that we're already seeing...
Well, considering that they're talking about the CPU and the, it's a bunch of other bottlenecks that
Stop
are
speaking
usually
Chinese.
Yeah, like how many shaders are we talking? GPU cores, like
memory,
how many channels
CPU,
for audio, memory, fucking SSD or solid state, like speed of hard drive. Like, a lot of these things are going to factor in more than the teraflops. But then again, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch the Angry Nintendo Nerd, the Angry Video Game Nerds, Sega versus Nintendo episode, where Sega came out and Sega does what Nintendo don't, right? Because Sega had 16-bit processing,
yeah, before
and blast processing, which marketing called it, and Nintendo had 8-bit. This was before the Super NES, so they really only had like a year or 6 months of that, and then the Super Nintendo was announced, so it was like an unfair comparison to begin with, because it was like mixing the generations they compared. But he had this chart of like, even when you compare the Genesis to the Nintendo or something, no, it was against the Super Nintendo. It was against the Super Nintendo. The blast processing was against the Super Nintendo. When you rack them up side by side, right? It's like, yes, the Nintendo had like a 1.2 megahertz processor, and the Sega Genesis had like a 1.5 megahertz processor, right? It's real fucking low numbers, right? Every other number that quantitated these consoles, memory, color palette, like every number down the list, the Super Nintendo beat the shit out of the Sega Genesis. But they just ran that number into the ground, and that's what he talked about. That's why he was always so pissed about that number as a kid, because it's like, you're just taking one meaningless number and you put this blast processing in front of it, but now other kids at school that have a Genesis talk about blast processing like they know what the fuck they're talking about. Right?
Having owned both, the only thing that worked better in the Sega was Sonic. And you felt that, like, playing the Sonic games back then, you felt that Sonic could not have played on a Super NES. That would not have happened.
Yeah, I guess because it was so speed-based, but I look at those arguments through the lens of, I am holding this.
Well, and again, but the thing is, like, we're setting up the same, like...
Oh, how cute, 16 bits.
PlayStation 4 has blast processing and the Xbox doesn't, argument.
Yeah.
20 years later. We haven't evolved anywhere.
I know.
20 years later.
No, the
same
marketing
argument.
hasn't evolved any.
It just seems so, like, now those numbers are impressive. Then, I look
those
back
numbers weren't impressive then.
It's even, like, as sad of numbers, because like what I just said, it was like 1.2 megahertz to 1.5 megahertz.
Yes.
And it's 1.2 teraflops to 1.8 teraflops.
Ooh, we moved to Terra.
Yeah, it just we've changed the divisor, but the ratio. I think more interesting is that GDC is becoming the predicted. This is when we're going to announce specs on the consoles, which I kind of don't want to see happen, because I think that perverts GDC as this developers conference.
Yeah,
and if it becomes this place of announcements,
then it just becomes the new E3. Wherever the announcements go.
Right. Then all of a sudden it becomes like, if we're announcing new consoles, maybe next year we're announcing launch titles and things like that. But if they do it, and they only announce the consoles, and they kind of do it in a way like, we're announcing these consoles to the developers. Oh, hi, press. But not really like when Microsoft rolled out Windows 8.
Right.
And they did it at a developer conference, but they had press rooms set up. But they were like, no, this is the developer version and all that. We're just giving developers versions and all this. But press can report on this if they want.
Well, maybe
I guess that would be okay, because I don't want to see next year's GDC dominated by, here's our GDC trailer, and, like, we have E3. If that's what you want, do it then.
Well, at least maybe a lot of those early... the actual specs, the actual information, you don't have kind of this goofy spectacle like E3, and then, E3 comes along and they do the launch titles and everything else, and, they kind of, it may actually be better. It could either hurt GDC or help the nature of launch events, I guess.
They've been fighting so long for space in E3. I think they might just default to GDC as a way to get a leg up.
I thought this was interesting. Valve has basically killed GameFAQs, I think. I think GameFAQs is dead. Valve has launched Steam guides, and there's already like 1,000 of these up. But basically, these are like in your Steam client, like all the games. You click a guides button, and you have user-contributed guides for all your games.
I saw that.
It's interesting, because don't they also sell, like, the strategy guide videos
for certain
stuff?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a thing like, those don't make enough money, nobody buys those digitally. Yeah. If you're going to get that digitally, you're probably just fucking pirating that.
Yeah.
And also GameFAQs replaces all that information, and many times those guides are outdated. Although, have you seen the fucking Skyrim guide by Primera?
No.
It's amazing.
Like 2 inches thick.
That would not surprise me, but I just tend to avoid that because then I'm just going to play it like a checklist instead of actually exploring. So.
I mean, I have considered getting that for Rachel. You know, she's playing, you know, all that, but I'm like, you can go online and look it up. Like, I don't need to spend, even though it was still $25. Like, it was still regular guide price.
Well, he wrote regular guide amount of shit.
No, I mean, it was at least 3 times as thick as any other guide that was on the shelf.
It was like an encyclopedia or something.
Yeah.
No, obviously not an
So
encyclopedia.
I'm probably they're not making enough revenue to keep the Premier guide, strategy guide people happy on there. And yeah, so user contributed things, which I think is pretty cool. Another way that Steam's evolving. And again, like you said, like if people like Ooh Shiny and they love Steam enough, everybody's bitching about digital-only consoles and online required consoles. But it's like, your fucking Steam is that way, been that way for years, and nobody's complaining.
Especially...
Well, they expect Steam to be online. It's kind of online anyway.
Especially, though, if Steam puts out a console that is primarily... Not necessarily online only, but it is a pain to use it offline. That's going to kind of set the stage for consoles.
Speaking of Steam consoles... this is a great article on The Verge, worth reading. They had this interview. This is actually up like a week or so ago. I just, because of like CES, I didn't catch it then, and it was just when I was going through catching up on things. There's a really good Verge article up where Gabe Newell is talking on the Steam box, because, you know, there was that third-party PC in the Valve booth at CES, but it was like, no, that isn't the Steam box. That's just a box that can run Steam. So really, it's just a PC running Steam. But Gabe does get into the Steam box and what it will be and what they're looking at. And essentially, the punchline is like they're looking at anybody that wants to put together a box and call it the Steam box and load Steam on there, go for it. You know, wide open, all of that. There's going to be low end. He does talk about streaming service. It might be the way it seems to be aligned is like you will run the game on your PC in your office and go into the living room with whatever PC Steam box next to the TV, and it will stream the screen from your desktop to your TV for you, and then you'll play in the living room. Not an online service where you're paying and you're playing the game on a cloud server.
Which is a good idea because, I mean, you're going to have better performance.
And which he talked about on that, too, of like, this is kind of like the low-end simple box, you know? Like, it doesn't take a lot of hardware to do this. Like, he didn't say it, but like a Roku might be able to do that, you know? Up to your high-end tier, which is what the box in... Because the box they showed is... I don't think they priced it, but the scuttlebutt is $1,000. Like, that box is going to be $1,000, which is way too fucking much for a Steam console, right? And that Steam, basically there's going to be a Valve-branded box. You could call it the Steam box if you want, but it's basically going to be like, there'll be one of these boxes that we put our name to. Sounds like it might be a hardware partnering thing, where Valve partners up with, like, say, an Alienware and says, okay, you are the guys that got the right price point and got the right features and hardware level that we went in there. He was adamant that it would ship with Linux. We're not going to support this Microsoft ecosystem.
Well, it makes sense if
we don't want you in their walled garden while we're building our walled garden.
Exactly.
Type thing, you know, because it's a little disingenuous to hear him argue about open when Steam is always on DRM. But he did say, like, if you want to put Windows on there, that's going to be fine. You know, you want to load Windows on there on your Steam box, your Valve branded Steam box. If you want to put Windows on it, go right ahead. We're not stopping you.
That's interesting, because it seems like it would be very... I just imagine that would be something very difficult to do, because one, they don't want you screwing with...
the closed system nature.
Yeah. And not that they don't want you, not like from a perspective of, well, you don't own your hardware, we're taking losses on the hardware to sell you games, but just in... You know, that's how they can get the best performance. Kind of like Apple does. Like,
right.
We build all the hardware we know.
Come in like a phased approach, because I mean, look how Valve has been doing this. You know, doing this hardware division for so long, doing the big picture beta and rolling that out, and doing a Linux beta and rolling that out. Like they slowly roll in these things and they tweak them up as they go, and they get them to the point where they're great. So then they add on the next layer.
Yeah.
I could see, like, the second or third gen box being a closed box, because by that point they have the library of titles that support Linux Steam up high enough that a closed Linux locked box is not a detriment. But if they launched this year with a Linux-only box, and the game manufacturers and the publishers are all like, look, fuck, we have new consoles this year to support, and then this new Linux OS and Unity and Unreal, they aren't quite there yet. So our engines aren't quite there yet. So we're happy to sit out of the Steam box, which is this unproven thing. Like, Gabe can't go in and play chicken in that race.
Right.
So if he just says, hey, it comes out, it's Linux, we're not paying Microsoft, we have a collection of games that run on it for the ones that do support it. But if you want to grab a thumbstick and then boot off of that has Windows 8 and install that, maybe there'll even be like a menu option of like, please partition this to set it up for dual boot. And then I can dual boot into either or.
He's going after all those people who feel burned by the PS3 not supporting Linux anymore.
Actually, that is a good point. That is a very good point, because, you know, Sony was going that direction.
For a Linux.
Yeah, but Sony found out that people just ended up using them as cheap hardware.
Yeah.
And Linux, people who bought PS3 because it could run Linux didn't buy games.
Right.
And so they never made a second point, so they didn't give a fuck about them. I mean,
all these
at the end
people
of the day,
are just going to buy, if they're just going to buy a regular PC at this point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we get to the point where, like, the Air Force built a supercomputer out of PlayStation 3s because the hardware was underpriced, and that was a cheaper way to build a supercomputer than to actually have a supercomputer built.
Well, because, you know, they're taking a loss so that they can, you know, make the money back.
The problem is, like, the Air Force is not going to buy games for all those PS3s they ordered, so the loss is just a loss.
Yeah.
Last article of the evening, last note, is that Z-Boy Games has a great article up on teasing their next RPG. And I bring it up because it has me interested. So I'm on record saying, like, checked out Penny Arcade, Precipice, checked out Cthulhu, checked out Breath of Death. It's still too much of a JRPG for me to want to dive into and play it. Even though I hear they're great. I hear they're good. But his next one, science fiction themed. You got me interested.
You're hoping for Mass Effect.
Working on this design. Well, it's not that I'm hoping for Mass Effect.
Well, I don't mean, but you know what I mean. Like,
but I could get behind an RPG space sim theme more than fantasy theme.
That's kind of what I mean. Like,
although at some point, I admit to you, Star Wars is fantasy.
Yes.
You know, like, it's fantasy in space, right?
Space opera, not, you know.
distant future, none of the Star Ocean, let's crash land on a fantasy planet bullshit. So we're talking laser guns, virtual realities, robots, mechs, spaceships. So he's not copping out of like, we're in the future of magic, you know? So don't on that. Female protagonist. So at this point, I'm like, all right, tell me when the Kickstarter is. Here's the money, you know. And he does talk about Kickstarter, but he also says improvements in our game engine, maintaining the 16-bit aesthetic, but we're doing more things that are more sophisticated that could ever been done on a NES Genesis era console. Chrono Trigger style combat.
Ooh.
And combat from the exploration overhead map as well, directly, not going into menu. And so
Faster switching up, basically.
I'm like, all right, we can do this, because I played Chrono Trigger and I found Chrono Trigger, yes, could be the happy medium that I can meet halfway. I can meet you at the Chrono Trigger crossroads and say, I can accept your JRPG-ness if you can Chrono Trigger the battle.
ATV!
I can do active time combat. The fuck did I even know what that means now? I feel
Combat.
I feel a little dirty.
Yes.
I feel a little dirty knowing that.
I've played enough JRPGs, I don't feel like there should be a word for it. You just know.
Are you traditional or are you ATB?
No, you just...
Wanting to do a
So
New
close.
Game Plus type thing, so you can restart and it randomizes a little bit to basically give you higher level challenges, but also mix it up a little bit. And Devil May Cry, we watched a quick look on that by Giant Bomb, and the Devil May Cry New Game Plus, like, completely changed enemy AIs as well. So, like, when you went back to the game again, not only were they harder bosses, and did you see higher level enemies sooner, they did moves they didn't do the first time through.
So you had to kind of figure them out again.
Yeah, it was like, oh wait.
Do you get to keep all your weapons,
You
though?
kept all your weapons,
Okay,
you
so
kept
yeah.
all your moves that you unlocked. Because the point was to unlock the rest of the weapons and the rest of the moves. But apparently they did a really good job of doing that. Looking at a Kickstarter of $100,000, but we are probably a year off from
Take my money
seeing
now.
that. Because he has to do Penny Arcade 4. They're
Yeah.
working on Penny Arcade 4 now. They just did a teaser.
He will take my money again and then again.
So looking at a $100,000 Kickstarter, and he was trying to go no physical rewards, but I don't know. People want their shirts.
Not for he said it was $10,000.
$100,000.
I don't see that.
I think he's going to
happening.
need to put some physical rewards on there, but I do think you need to high price them.
Yeah,
I understand where he's coming from. Like $25, I cannot afford to give you a shirt and make a game.
and I guess he's done the Cthulhu
Yeah, he
Saves
did.
the World Kickstarter before.
So
but
he's been down that path.
it's basically getting out of the games business and getting into the
Right. So
merchandise
I understand
business.
his desire, but I also understand that people want a physical memento, but you need to just say, like, hey, if you want that physical memento, then you're paying $75, and I'm not going to bat an eye about that because, it, like you said, it gets me into the shipping and t-shirt industry and out of the game industry for a bit.
You have to figure it all out.
But, yeah,
You
so...
know how much a shirt costs to send?
Yeah, and again, he
A
says it's
lot.
like a year off. They got to ship Penny Arcade 4, and do that, and that's obviously the focus. And they just did a tease of Penny Arcade 4, went up on the blog as well, and screenshots and all of that. So that's starting to happen, but since they got a little bit away, but they've been actively thinking about this, and well, you know this, like when we do our games, like we have constant specs going on. I just recently started playing with, for another group, Yammer, and I may set us up a Funkworks Yammer.
What is Yammer?
So Yammer is a private Facebook.
Okay.
It
so
looks like Facebook.
What's the advantage of it?
It has easy file storage, and you kind of have your Facebook comments on anything, and
Even
you can
files.
easily make like subgroups. So for us, I could easily make groups for all the various game ideas. So one thing, like the Evil
It
Quest
kind of becomes
guys,
like a wiki type of...
sort of,
Huh?
except it doesn't have
structure.
It's Facebook, so it's just a comment thread. It's just make a new post. Whereas a wiki kind of have to go in, edit the page, and it's just the page, right? So you feel how to do this. I don't kind of want to set up and do forums, which is what the Evil Quest, Chaossoft guys, what they really swear by. But we're really disparate. I mean, we have some things in Dropbox and some things in email, and we have a mailing list, and it's like, it does kind of bring all that together. It has like a chat and things like that I don't know we would use. There are features of it, but there's a free account. But I think I may set that up for us. You can use your regular email addresses, but I think the email address that sets it up has to be a funkworks.com email address. I think that's the catch. But that's no problem for us.
I think they all forward to our email addresses.
We even have forwards if we have. We don't have to use that. I believe you can use your regular email address, so you can all, because you get in there like Facebook and you can say, "Give me digest notice on any new posts and things like that." We can get in there and just to go in there and for our game ideas,
especially now since we have like no particular next step as far as a
and that we can put files into the groups as well and just say, hey, here's a bunch of assets for Captain Dubstep. I'll make some random posts in there of here's this idea, here's this idea, here's this idea. They're Facebook posts, so they can each build their own one. Yeah. You can comment on any of them, and it's like, oh, I was thinking about that as well. I mean, again, the Chaossoft guys, they constantly swear by having that easily accessed at searching. So we may do that for, and it may be something that I then recommend to small teams. And say like, hey, it does a couple of these other things quite well that make an email list or a forum not ideal. Although private forums may not be a bad way to go either.
Yeah. I guess the problem there is Yammer, I'm assuming, is a third-party service, not something you set up on your own server.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Microsoft bought them.
Okay, my guess is they're going to have more...
In fact, you're probably going to learn a lot about it. Because it's got SharePoint integration features, and it's really like a SharePoint that doesn't suck ass. I've heard it described as that by Microsoft employees.
That's interesting. I haven't even looked at SharePoint 2013, but I think that's interesting because if you install your own forum, PHPBB or whatever you use, you've got a host of security issues and spammers and stuff, and to have a company taking care of that, Yeah,
and there's a free account that I think we'd be fine on.
Which would, I'm guessing, a number of users.
The only thing it does not do, I wish it did, was allow us some sort of task management system. I didn't see that anywhere.
But we've got Agile, there's like always something we can use to plug missing features in.
I think we need to migrate off of AgileZen to Trello, because AgileZen's about to start sucking ass, because I've been in their 2.0 beta, and they did the cardinal sin of rewrite from scratch. So it doesn't even have feature parity with the existing version yet. And they've been working on it for a little over a year, seems like now. And it's like, man, you guys don't even have feature parity. And they won't be able to import the existing boards. So, yeah, there's like no reason to keep using it, right? Like,
I'm sure.
Well, if it's using a completely new service, I might as well take a look at what's available. Oh, look, this Trello board kicks ass. We'll probably just use it.
It's free up to a certain number, so...
I think Trello is way free.
How does it make money, then?
They are, selling it only to high-end clients.
Oh, okay.
If you come in and you're Fortune 500, Trello's ready to talk with you and do this custom build and all that. Joe Spolsky's like, I don't think I have to charge the small ones. He's like, I don't think enough of them convert to support the infrastructure that you charge the low guys. I think by having it free, we get the mind share and everything we need. And I think by going in and charging the people that need 100 accounts and have problems that 5 people don't have, that, or want to install it locally or want to host it in their cloud solution, that we'll be fine on supporting them. And it cuts down our support tier. He's got a lot of blog posts up on this. Basically saying yeah, I think you guys have fucked up freemium. I think like if
There's been a lot of blog posts on that.
yeah,
Just in
but
general.
well, because most people attack freemium with microtransactions, like they're really close together of like the $9.99 year plan, right?
Yeah.
They want to get you on.
Or they have a huge free block, and then that ends up taking up so much of their support time and their infrastructure and everything. And
But it's
people
like
never convert.
Like Agile Zen charges you for collaborators.
Yeah.
So you have this task management board that only you can use for free. Well, the advantage of that is to collaborate with the team.
Yeah.
And that's what they charge for. So even though there's a free version, people aren't using the free version because they immediately have to pay for it. It might as well just be pay.
Yeah.
Right? So, and again, like Joel Spokes is like, those $9.99 month accounts require too much support and there's not enough of them to justify that level. I just want the $90,000 a month accounts.
Then again,
and then
if
I'll have
you're
a free version.
if you're Joel
Spolsky.
Spolsky, you can kind of do that. Like if
Yeah.
you're a startup, probably not.
Yeah, it is also, he did say, like, because of our Stack Overflow and our position, we, A, know how to execute on this.
Yes, that's...
B, everybody knows us that we could immediately launch him with the amount of market share that nobody else can do. So, yeah, I didn't mean to get off too much on that railing. So, I think we're good here, right? Anything
Yep.
else on that? All right. So, thank you everyone who tuned in the live stream, which just seemed to be SmilerTune, but anybody else who logged in, thank you again. Thank you anybody who watches this on YouTube, and thank you to all our hardcore veterans who listen to us old school and downloads the audio podcast. We will be back in a week.
You've been listening to GameMarx. Visit us at GameMarx.com for the latest news, reviews, and videos on indie gaming. That's GameMarx.com.
Does the sign in the background say pharmacy? Like, is she going south of the border to get drugs or something?
Well, maybe she's south of the border for other reasons. And
Saw that, and that's a win.
No one goes to Canada or Mexico for anything but cheap pharmaceuticals. That's a fact. Can look that up
we went down
on the internet.
We went down for a bullfight once. I've been to a bullfight, and I was like,
this was when you lived in Texas, I assume,
11,
like, and
12?
it was just
we lived in Arizona. We lived in Arizona.
Okay.
When I lived in Texas, I was not near Mexico.
But this was just like, this is going to be a quick trip, not...
Yeah, it was like a couple hour drive south, and then like an hour into Mexico, and then we saw a bullfight. Bullfight's fucking sad. And I don't mean that from like a PETA standpoint. I mean like, it's not the matador battling mano a mano with the bull.
Yeah.
It's like an hour of like a bunch of people beating the shit out of the bull, right? People riding around on horses, throwing arrows at it and shit, and then other people getting out and doing bow and arrows and spears and all that. And then after the bull has been beat to shit for 2 hours of this and running around, then the matador comes out. And then, like, takes on this other bull. And, I mean, you know, he gets him to charge the little thing, but the bull's not, like, running through, turning around and around. The bull's, like, running through and then, like, stopping, because he's rested, you know? And then the matador gets a few hits on it, and then I think the thing basically just, like, lays down. It's like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Just end it.
Die.
Yeah, I want to die.
Oh.
At least they don't bait the bulls anymore.
Like, try to get the bull to attack?
This is why they bred bulldogs, is they get the dog to bite the bull on the nose and not let go for a while.
To piss it off?
Yes.
Well, because, I mean, a bull will be defensive. They're not naturally pissed off to, like, go on killing rampages.
Exactly. Like, you know, you have to work
get them there.
to that, yeah.
Ingenuity.
For a while, it was illegal not to bait the bulls.
I had a friend who went to a rodeo, and apparently they played... I can't remember what... It was like... I think it was called Mexican pinball. It was something sufficiently racist, like you would expect for around here, where I think everyone stood in a circle, and the last one to move lost. And my friend Drew is, was I think the last one to move, and he got hit by a bull, and like he broke like his shoulder or something. Like it was pretty serious when it happened.
They had a real bull?
This was at a rodeo around.
Why
here,
the
yes.
fuck would you go out there with a real damn bull?
Because it's a traveling rodeo, and I guess they can get away with this if they skip town the next day.
Rodeo bulls are smart. They know that it's supposed to be a game that they can win.
Well, apparently, yeah. This, like, I don't even know if they... I guess they made him sign a waiver, but of course that's complete crap, you know, when something like that happens. Just... I don't know why anyone...
I'm pretty
would think
certain they had him sign a waiver. They made the rodeo clowns sign waivers.
They just had people from the audience, because...
Anybody
Sure,
dumb enough to want to go out here?
Speaking of racism, did you...
Nothing good starts with speaking of racism.
Have you seen the new
You see what
social graph search of Facebook?
I've heard people talk about it, but no, I don't. Is it actually in face? Like, where do you go to get to it?
I don't know that it's
Facebook
active.
search bar?
Then again, I'm not a Facebook user. Like I'm there under
I didn't know if
protest.
it was-
I'm a conscientious objector Facebook user.
I saw it was the API. Like, I figured it was just like the API. Like, screw
But
that.
no. It'll be a search. Basically, it's a search that you can restrict to people you know, or
Yeah.
the people that you know that they know, right?
Yeah. So what about
like,
it?
well, here's like the good example, which this I heard on a podcast. It's the Facebook example, which is kind of racist. The good example is basically like, I want to find all the pics of my friends at Yosemite National Park, right? Like, you can't Google that. If you go
Right.
to Facebook and search within my friends network, Yosemite National Park, and then you got all your friends there and the trips, because you're like, remember when we took a vacation? Like, oh yeah, you know, graduation.
it's going to search like album names,
Right. If I
photo
go in
captions, comments.
And, well, I don't use Facebook, but I guess most people, if they go in and on their social network search graduation, they will get all the people they graduated with, and, you know, it'll mean like
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of cool because there's things you might want to search with that would only be relevant within your circle of friends. But the
Right.
funny thing is like you can expand it to like the people your friends know and all of that. So it might be like it's almost kind of a local area thing. But the one that they have on Facebook's example is like you want to search for spicy food and limit it only to my friends and friends of friends who are Indian.
Oh.
Seriously?
Seriously, that's their example. Which I'm like, all right, let's just go on Facebook, and I want to search for good soul food. Please limit that to only black people.
That's like the worst data
I mean, why
point.
didn't they put that example down?
There's
Why did
so
they
many
stop
data
short?
points in a profile. They chose that.
Yeah, because they could have made all kinds of examples and allowed the internet to do what the internet does, which is be racist. But no, they just had to say,
They cut him off at the knees.
this is what you guys are going to do with it, so we'll just show you how.
That's like the least hostile, you know, bigoted thing you could probably do with Facebook
Yeah, it's
graph
not,
search.
on the surface itself, is like, okay, well, that is not so bad, but you've primed the pumps. Like, now
Yeah.
you've made everybody think, like, oh, wait a minute, you're right, I could do racially... Let's go on there and, you know, search by racial lines and handguns, you know? Like, the fun never
Wow.
stops here.
How many black
The
people
fun never
are
starts.
scared of policemen versus how many are scared that policemen will shoot them if they think we have a gun?
Yeah, let's go search my white friends and the word pig and see what comes back, and we'll search my black friends and the word pig, and we'll see what comes back, and we'll make a funny post about it on my blog.
I just saw people
Thank
complaining.
you, Facebook and technology.
Complaining that it was limited to social, so you couldn't go in and do like analysis like you could on Twitter.
Right.
is probably
The
a
whole
good
point
thing.
is that it's a limited search
Yeah.
to your connections, not a search Facebook's entire database.
Yeah.
For that,
Which Facebook
you have
would
to
never
be what
do.
they call an advertiser.
Yes.
Then you get it all. And they've probably had this feature for a while.
Also, someone made the comment of like, can you imagine Facebook as a dating site? Now that you mention it, that is exactly what it sounds like.
Didn't you use
They're
Facebook?
trying
What
as
I
a
used it
dating
for?
site?
Okay, I didn't use Facebook for that. I used MySpace. because
Whatever.
Yeah.
I was not legally allowed to use Facebook at the time that I was using it for a dating site. Because at the time it was college only, and
Okay. In college only, because I thought it was like the COPPA thing, like 13
College
years old,
only.
like, that...
What the hell is a college
none of them are
person
supposed to be on the
use it?
site. 13 is the men for all.
That's just... You're not... You say I wasn't supposed to... legally supposed to be...
By the terms of service, I shouldn't have been using it.
What I mean is more efficient. It puts into play all the features that MySpace gave you that could be used for that Facebook does not. Oh...
Did he tell you what he got me for my birthday?
No.
I'm getting a freezer. It comes tomorrow.
Like a deep freeze.
Yeah, deep freezer.
Like a stand-up deep freezer. And they're going to take away the piece of shit that's in the garage now.
Oh, I didn't realize there was an existing deep freeze.
No, there's a refrigerator.
Oh.
An old-ass yellow...
Ooh.
Molded
Yeah.
up refrigerator.
That's kind of
But I mean, old enough that, like, it was intended to be yellow.
Right.
Like, when refrigerators came yellow. It doesn't have, like, the kill-the-child latch door mechanism, but it was made right after that law passed, you know? Our electric bill went down by, like, $30 a month when I unplugged it. Like, all the lights in the house going fluorescent and all that didn't make a dent compared to what that refrigerator did. I have no idea why the deep freeze is such a high priority desired item.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could buy, like, a lot of meat or something, or, you know, a
But
lot of
I'm at the
food.
age of wisdom kicks in, you know, as you get older and you realize, like,
Oh, you
it's
mean-
their fucking gift. You don't have to understand furries. Just get them the damn costume and they'll be happy. And you got them a good gift and they love
At some
you
point,
for
you're
it.
enabling, though. And
No.
that's
But
not...
You
give
pick
them-
your battles.
You give them the costume. You tell them this is your day, the one day of the week where I won't say a damn word, and then you go.
You just walk around the house and I won't say a word. Sure.
Also, you may have noticed, I don't know, maybe you've never picked up on, there is a slight tit-for-tat passive-aggressiveness in our relationship. You may have not seen this.
I can't imagine
It's
where
subtle. It's very, very subtle.
Like I said, the deep freeze, though, I can see because my grandmother used to have one of those, and she lived on a farm, and you could get a bunch of meat. You could buy local meats, local foods, keep them.
There is a
That might work.
discussion
Or
that will be had
bodies.
in a little while about buying a share of a local farm.
If I have my,
I think I saw part of that.
now
on-
that I have my freezer,
but you can,
we can do this.
and you're totally into like the organic thing, so it kind of fits unless there's a.
Unless we had this conversation last year,
Oh yeah,
and somehow there was a freezer veto, which makes no fucking goddamn sense, because I don't need the veggies in the deep freezer. I'm going to eat the damn veggies. These two are not related unless you're married.
So yeah, if you're not getting a whole bunch of food all at once, if you get it slowly over time, then
Yeah, I mean, the
Bodies.
farm share thing is,
bodies.
you know,
One day.
the farm share thing, they just give you a box, like a week.
Yeah,
Like, here's this week's crop. And the thing is that I guess there's a couple staples that will always be in the box.
and then everything else is just kind of random.
But yeah, everything is just kind of a seasonal random thing. Now the cool thing is the one that I'm looking at here is the one I'm going to go with is Collin Family Farms. They stock a lot of their local restaurants here and things like that. Because believe it or not, your restaurants are buying, for the most part, locally grown. Produce does not ship. Does not
Yeah.
ship well, and it's cheaper for them to go ahead and get it. So really what you're getting is like the restaurant boxes and stuff like that. But it's good things, and they're all certified organic, and it's like a family-owned, literally, it's a family-owned farm. Everybody in the family is working on the farm. The farm is much bigger than just the family, though, so...
Yeah, I would
it's kinda
imagine
saying,
so.
like,
If they're
Bush Brothers is family-owned, you
Yeah.
know? But because it is family-owned, there's also, like, no, we're not going public, or, like, this is what we do, this is what we've always done, everybody in the family has a job, everybody's good and happy, there's no incentive for us to sell this, we just, it's all organic, certified, and it's all, locally grown, and no genetic crap, and things like that. So it lines up well with that. And but what the wife does, Mrs. Collin or whoever, is also like distribute recipes for the veggies that are packed in there. So like when you get like, I don't know what the fuck this is. It's like, here's how you cook that. You know, here are some recipes, you know, that you can use to prepare the things that are in there.
Yeah. I am so looking forward to some fresh, farm fresh, better than I can grow it, aubergine.
What is that?
Eggplant.
Okay.
It sounds so much better in the French form, doesn't it? Aubergine.
Fuck eggplant.
I remember eating eggplant parmesan one time, and I think it was just not appetizing. It was the way, you know, like...
I have nothing against eating eggplant. I've been several times tried to prepare dishes with eggplant.
Eggplant
just fucks your dish. Eggplant just takes your dish, bends it over, and ass fucks it.
If there's anything in the dish other than the eggplant, it will fuck the dish so fast.
How? Like, what quality of the eggplant does this?
It's like a watery zucchini on crack.
It just, like, has no... Like, you can't dry the damn thing out enough before. And everything you put it in, it just oozes water into everything else, so...
And by the time you dry it out...
Eggplant parmesan. Perfect case.
Is better
you want to have
jerky.
cheese on that. You know what doesn't like to be in a puddle of water? Cheese.
I make a pretty
I also
good...
chopped my top of my finger off grating eggplant. Not grating the eggplant, grating the potatoes with the eggplant. By the way, if you slice the complete top of your finger off, there isn't shit they can do about that. They can just put like a dollop of super glue on the top of it and just like, that's it. That's all we can do. Like, we expect us to stitch that? There's nothing to stitch.
Yeah.
It's gone, all right?
It all has to grow back.
It's in your gratin. That's where it's gone. Willie wouldn't eat the gratin either. It's like, I'm not eating that.
I can't imagine why.
And the fucked up thing is, like, this was after my ex-wife had moved out, Willie moved in, and I'm like, this is in my Alton Brown phase, where every night I'm making, like, something up for Good Eats, okay? And for the most part, it's turning out really well. I'm trying to make the gratin, right? Which is just layers. And very commonly, potatoes are used as the middle layer. And Alton Brown pitches it as, like, whatever you got left over in the refrigerator. In this case, I tried some eggplant or something like that. Just whatever. Throw a layer of potatoes, and then stuff. And then potatoes, and then stuff. And then potatoes, and stuff. And then some kind of, like, cream or dairy. Just kind of, like, bind it. And bake that shit for an hour. And then you just slice it up, and, you know, you've kind of, like, got the scalloped potato broccoli. Or scalloped potato shit I had left over. Scalloped potato meatloaf. Scalloped potato, you know, like, he called it refrigerator Velcro, right? Right. It's just like a way of, like, you got this leftover stuff on there. But we didn't have leftover stuff, so I also saw an episode of eggplant. We were kind of curious about it, so I tried to dry out the eggplant and that's it.
Eggplant is not something I've ever been curious about.
Well, again, this was my cooking phase. So this was like, yes, eggplant. Let's try cooking eggplant, you know?
There's so many other good vegetables.
Like, prior to
Why do you need to discover a new one?
Well, it was kind of the Kid Icarus thing. Like, that was my only basis for eggplant knowledge.
It was evil.
And yes, it was like, yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know, Kid Icarus, eggplants, yeah, let's cook that. I don't know.
Yeah, in Captain N, he ran around with King Hippo, but you don't want to eat hippos.
I did a lot of weird cooking at this phase and involved a lot of weird things. And because if he put it on the show, I tried to cook that. I mean, I was basically learning to cook, right?
Yeah,
so at this point, like, it was like anything to make it interesting, go out and cook. So I think at 7 o'clock, I sliced my finger.
Oh.
And it was bleeding pretty bad, and I grabbed some paper towels and wrapped it around my finger and kept going. And it was like, oh, just bleeding a little bit, it'll clot up. And then it soaked through the paper towels, and I wrapped a couple more on it, and then I put like a piece of tape around that.
Did you think that was ever going to be okay? Like,
and I keep going. I think you got to understand that my family, the men in my family, have an aversion to the medical profession.
I understand.
Don't want to go to the doctor.
I've experienced that in my family as well.
Like, the only time, like, we go to the doctor is cancer and stitches required. Like, yes. those are the two. Like, if you don't need stitches and you don't have cancer, you know, just walk it off.
That sounds
right?
like both sides of my family.
I was attempting to walk it off.
Which is why my grandmother was so surprised when my dad became a doctor.
I was attempting to walk it off. So I think about 10 o'clock, It's like 3 hours later, when the bleeding had not in any way, shape, or form slowed down. Even Willie was in the kitchen, just like, fuck, I think we're gonna have to get stitches. I think we're gonna have to fucking go in the hospital. You know? And that was just a great, like, explanation I had to give, like, 3 or 4 times. You know, like, checking in the emergency room, the first nurse, the second nurse, and finally the doctor. You know?
Like, yeah, it's been bleeding for a while.
First of all, how did you do this? It's like, well, you know that mandolin slicer? And you know that guard? Use the guard. That's the punchline here.
Why would you not use the guard?
Well, because it's easier to hold the item, because your fingers can hold it. The guard's got the little, like, nibs on the end of it that's supposed to hold it, but you're trying to slice a potato long way, and that just doesn't fucking work, right? So then you slice down a little bit, and then you grab the guard, but at some point you're just like, fuck it, I just need to be efficient here. And you can slice, it did not hurt. There's no pain associated with it. It went fucking right off, man.
That's what it's there for. That's what the mandolin does.
So, and even Alton Brown's like, use the guard. Like, I think Alton Brown is like, use the guard, and then he has like a hand glove of chainmail in that episode, you know, as well.
He stopped several times to tell you to use the fucking guard.
Yeah, he doesn't mess around on that kind of safety stuff, and I'm not listening to that part. I'm very clearly not paying attention to that.
That is not fun stuff.
Now you're a man!
You explain the dumb shit, but you live in Tennessee, so you figure a certain amount of dumb shit is just like, you work at an ER in Tennessee.
You have seen this.
Yeah, you're right.
As I said, people who come in after have been flown in from the rodeo.
Exactly.
You know, like, sure, why not?
The second part you have to explain is like,
I shouldn't laugh about that.
Why is it now 4 hours after the event? And we shouldn't have to have a conversation about giving you a couple pints of blood for a finger accident, okay?
Wow.
Like, pints of blood are reserved for real shit. And
yes.
They eventually passed on that. They eventually like, okay, your blood pressure seems alright, and if you feel woozy, you come back and we're going to give you some blood here. Yeah.
Don't do jumping shit.
But then at the end, it was basically we get in there and he just like drops a couple drops of essentially super glue. And he's all right. And I'm like, that's it? There's like no stitches or anything? He's like, there's nothing to stitch. It's gone. You can't like fold it over.
Especially after 4 hours, sir.
Oh.
I don't know. If I cut myself while cutting something in the kitchen, I typically just cook for myself. Okay, I can kind of take a wait and see approach. You know, if it's not immediately bleeding, but...
Even when I was cooking for myself, you stop for about 5 minutes, and then you go back to cooking.
The way you wield a knife that you have all 10 of your fingers is amazing.
Yes, all 10 of my fingers and long-ass fingernails. There's a reason why black women have a long-ass fingernails. It's so there's something to get cut when you know that you need to stop. If it cuts the fingernails, you're too close.
She scares the shit out of me when she works a knife in the kitchen.
I think it's funny that you still gave this food to Willie to eat.
Well,
he tried to give this food
it
to
was,
Willie.
again, 3 hours later. So it went into, like, oven, but Willie was like, no, I don't. I'm like, it didn't, like, I threw that batch out and grabbed another potato, and it's fine. But he's like, did you actually see the skin flap off the top of your finger? It's like, well, no, I didn't notice doing it. And then I didn't, like, search for it. It's not like something that'll be reattached, you know?
No.
You have to get it on ice and get it there and...
How?
Not a bobbit, you know?
It's gonna grow back. It's not as if you had lost the entire finger.
And, like, you can't even tell. Like, fingerprint pattern and everything. I thought, like, awesome, I'll be able to, like, screw with fingerprint sensors, or I'll be able to, like, crack safes with one middle finger or something now. And it's like, no, fingerprints back and everything.
You have to cut pretty deep to kill your fingerprint.
Yeah.
Even to scar it. Fingerprints are pretty damn resilient.
Well, I did read that on the internet afterwards, and that's the way they do it. You stick your hands inside the oven while it's full blast and kind of let them almost like skin flesh melt.
Wait, that's how you get rid of your fingerprints?
Yes,
There's a guide for this?
You have to cauterize it.
Fucking internet, man. Now, it's on the internet.
That is an explanation for
I don't know if
everything.
you will take it as an authoritative, like if Wikipedia would have called this, an authoritative source or not.
Or just a bunch of guys who think this is so freaking cool.
That too, Either way, you're guaranteed to come out with fucked up fingerprints.
Did they also teach you how to become a ninja? Because I'm pretty sure that's along the same lines of like...
Well, the ninjas, I think, solved this much more elegantly. They just fucking wore gloves.
It's too easy. And there's evidence, namely the glove.
Smiler point out the obvious. Just put the super glue on your fingers.
And then you get to peel it off later.
I don't think you have to worry about that. I don't think super glue comes off, dude.
Oh, yeah, I guess it wouldn't. It wouldn't be like putting regular glue on.
No. No, it's not Elmer's glue. You don't know a little soap and water and that comes off. No.
I've had super glue come off.
I was going to say, I imagine it would kind of wear
I don't know if it's coming off so much as that layer of your skin
is falling off.
is peeling and it's shedding it.
Well, kind of, yes. But it comes off. The only thing that doesn't really come off is Gorilla Glue. That shit will fuck shit up.
Alright. I guess we can expound the viscosity of glues later and should start the show.
Yep.